We're loading in onto Merry-Go-Round Ladder Edition, Let Me Win versus Professor Oak, and I'll mention right away, all of the maps, they are just going to be the standard map pool. So players are playing on maps that they've played through Ladder before. There's nothing unfamiliar to people, so that's always nice. I like it when tournaments, well, sometimes it's cool to have a weird map pool, but I think it's more relevant to players when it's a ladder map. Anyway, we've got spawning as a Protoss, currently unknown. His race is currently unknown to LetMeWin, but he is the Protoss in the top left position. It is Professor Oak. And then over in the top right, we have LetMeWin. He is our green Protoss from Michigan, spawning up in the top right. I think I already said that. Redundancy is redundant. Alright. So, LetMeWin versus Professor Oak. LetMeWin is a little bit higher ranked, a little bit higher league than Professor Oak, but hey, you know, that random boost a little bit. You know, you play random, your opponent doesn't quite know what to open up with, and it looks like Professor Oak knows what to open up with. Professor Oak is going for a proxy. He's saying, you know what, I ain't got time for this. I ain't got time for PvP. Nobody likes PvP. Nobody likes to play it. Nobody likes to watch it. Oh, that's a lie. But really, it's not. It's a very volatile matchup. And, oh, it's not a proxy gate, though. Okay. Okay, what are you doing? What are you doing there, little probie? He's got big plans. Ooh, he's okay. So LetMeWin. He is so he is going to be. He gets a little bit lucky. He scouts his opponent with his first scouting choice. He sees that pylon, the gateway, and the assimilator. However, he doesn't see this pylon. He might be a little bit confused because LetMeWin, he's got 2 pylons in his base, and he says, okay, you know, I've got 2 pylons down, we're both playing the same race, we should both have 2 pylons down, right? And he's saying, you know, Professor Oak only has 1 in his base, and now, as a Protoss, LetMeWin is a little bit concerned because this means that there's another pylon somewhere else on the map, because he just knows that you have to, at a certain point in the game, have a certain amount of pylons. And if he's not seeing where all of those are, he's going to start scouting around. He's going to start looking around for proxies. He's going to start looking around for things like Stargates, proxy Dark Templars, well, proxy Dark Shrines for Dark Templars, things like, how did I forget the name of the Blink building? Oh no! The Templar Archives. So something like that. Ooh, there it is. Proxy Stargate, okay. LetMeWin, maybe doing something similar. He's got that proxy pylon down, another proxy Stargate. So we're going to have pretty much the same build going up against each other. However, Professor Oak is going for a sentry, whereas LetMeWin, he's already got the stalker out. So LetMeWin, he's in a little bit better situation to deal with a proxy oracle that I believe will probably be coming in from both of these players. I'm no PvP expert, but when it's a proxy Stargate like this, yep, we got that oracle coming out from Professor Oak. In just a few seconds, we're going to see what LetMeWin decides on doing with it. Some other things going on with the game. It looks like LetMeWin has already got his mothership core going. Professor Oak choosing to, or maybe just forgetting about the mothership core. I don't know. I found it really interesting at the start of Heart of the Swarm. Like, Protosses were just really late on getting a mothership core out, and I was like, yo, that unit is so good. Like, you just gotta make it right away. I don't know. I would make that right away all the time. Oh boy. Enough about the mothership core. We got a fleet beacon. So this might be, oh dear, oh baby. Okay, so LetMeWin. He's got an oracle in his base. He's running away. That oracle has got 6 kills, doing very strong economic damage, and there's actually not a lot to contend with her right now. There is 1 stalker from LetMeWin, but he was way far out of the base, so he really basically all he could do there was just run his probes around, hope that the Oracle runs out of energy and kills less because the probes are just kind of running away from it, you know, trying to buy as much time. So he loses 9 of his probes. He's down to 19 probes versus 23. He still has an okay, not lead, but he's not completely behind on the probe count, just because he was probing a little bit harder than Professor Oak was to begin with. Professor Oak, however, he's done with that Oracle. That Oracle's in retirement for Professor Oak. He says, you know what, buddy? I can't. There it is. He says, buddy, you got 9 kills. You did a good job. You're going to retire off just hanging out in space. And he's going to follow it up with this 4-gate. Warp gate is just finishing up. Does he have a proxy pylon? He's got this one that's pretty close. This probe, all right, he's going to place down another proxy pylon. And he brought out a void ray as well from that proxy stargate to aid in the 4-gate aggression as well. We've got the Oracle coming into the main base. If you let me win, he gets pushed away by a Nexus cannon, but not before killing at least one more probe. The Oracle does get out with his life, so he baited out the Nexus cannon. He baited out the planetary... Wait, what is it even called? I don't know. Planetary Nexus? Photon Overcharge. I don't know. Everybody just calls it Planetary Nexus, right? But, do we have the carrier. The carrier is trying to arrive right now. It's going to take a little while. Carriers take absolutely forever to make. And right now we have a 4-gate coming up against 3 gateways and a pretty low, well, the probe count is still even. LetMeWin has been very diligent on making probes. However, he's been spending more money on probes, trying to just keep up when he's losing all of these, and that means that his army count is quite a bit lower. It's not significantly, it's only 5 supply less. However, this Void Ray is very effective against Stalkers. These sentries are really the only thing keeping him in right now, and it looks like Carrier has arrived, big boy. LetMeWin bringing it out in this first game of the day with the Carrier. However, Professor Oak moving up the ramp, pops off the Photon Overcharge, going to hold him off for now. Is the Carrier going to reach up with the rest of the army and be able to hold this off? Maybe? I don't know. The Stalker count is in Professor Oak's favor, but only by 2. There are a lot of sentries, and really I don't know if they'll be that effective, to be honest. I think it might be not really wasted warp-ins, but the force fields here, they'll be okay, but like this carrier doesn't care about force fields. He's got interceptors, man. He does what he wants. He's a carrier. Oh boy, this game is ridiculous. The style carrier will make any game pretty dumb, but at least it'll be hopefully pretty entertaining. So now we have the carrier. He's evened up the score. Uh-oh, he's pulling the boys. You don't do this. You're not a Terran. He's pulling the boys, and I don't even think he needed to, though, to try and take out this army, because he had a bit of a higher Stalker count. Oh no, the Stalkers are forced. They targeted down the carrier. How many Stalkers do we have left? We have 7 for LetMeWin, 4 for Professor Oak. I think LetMeWin will just squeak this one out, to be honest. I think he started to be, he was playing a gold level player, right? You play a player that's 2 leagues below you, and you say, okay, I guess I can do kind of whatever I want, but right now, Professor Oak, he's keeping it on edge. The army supply is nearly identical. Professor Oak does have 1 more gateway than LetMeWin, and he is finishing up his +1 attack. So that +1 attack will be doubly helpful for the Stalkers because they shoot 2 of the... where is that? Maybe I'm wrong there. I won't say exactly. But it does help out the Zealots because they actually attack twice with Chief's attack. So a +1 attack for a Zealot from Professor Oak is actually like +2 attack. However, it looks like LetMeWin's Stalker control pretty good, and he pushes Professor Oak out of his base. And now we're into, I guess it's kind of evened out, you know? The game is, Professor Oak has +1 attack. I think that's a very strong advantage. Does LetMeWin, okay, he sees that proxy, he's going to clear it out. Professor Oak, on the other hand, he hasn't seen the proxy the proxy Stargate of LetMeWin. He also, well, he hasn't seen those Phoenixes. I don't know how effective those will be. However, they will let me win see the map very well. LetMeWin will not have things, you know, come unaware onto him now. He's gonna have those Phoenixes out. He's gonna have that scouting ability. Has he seen this proxy? Okay, he's seen this pylon as well. He's probably gonna clear that one out. He's taking his expansion. He's feeling pretty safe. However, I don't think he has seen Professor Oak's army for a while. So he might, I mean, he's not totally in the clear yet. Professor Oak, he's going for the Nexus. He's thinking about it. Got it. Alright. He's got that Nexus coming down. He's being much more diligent on his upgrades than LetMeWin is. I think LetMeWin is kind of thinking, you know, maybe I'm ahead economically, maybe I'm going to be ahead in the army. Stargate's not doing anything. I kind of want that Stargate to be producing something. Even though LetMeWin is pretty low on money, he sees Professor Oak's army again. He sees, okay, you've got a little bit smaller stalker count than me. However, you've got some more zealots, so you gotta micro a bit. Ooh, the Phoenixes pick up a couple of the stalker and a sentry, so you cannot force field his ramp. LetMeWin can just, he doesn't quite know it, but he can just walk up Professor Oak's ramp if he wants to. It's still a difficult position just because of that high ground division. The stalkers will be able to attack LetMeWin's stalkers before, you know, get one or two volleys off. However, it looks like the choice of LetMeWin is instead to just go with a bunch of Stargates. When in doubt, make Void Rays, right? Because nothing's bad against Void Rays. Alright. Ooh, never mind. It is Tempest time. He's... LetMeWin, what are you doing, man? Making Tempests in a PvP this early in the game. I guess it is 16 minutes. It feels like we're at like 8 minutes in the game, to be honest. But he's pumping out one Tempest from 3 Stargates. I don't know if he's just forgotten about this. There it is. Okay, he's got that one going too. That's a long haul for this this Tempest to get home. I wonder, what if Professor Oak moves out, he intercepts the Tempest, picks it off, moves into LetMeWin's base and runs him over. Is it gonna happen? Maybe not, but in a perfect world, well, in Professor Oak's perfect world, that would definitely be what happens. So Professor Oak, again, he's definitely going for the upgrades. That is his big focus, I think, for this game, is to go for a lot of gateway units. He's got that robo, but he has... Okay, he's got it just for the observer. I mean, I would... Well... In a normal game, I would like to see Immortals start coming out. However, has Professor Oak... Where is this observer? Where are you? Okay. I think... Okay, he sees the Tempest. So Professor Oak says, alright, I have to deal with Tempest now? What do I do? He's just taking down his next Nexus. That's a terrible phrase. Yeah, really, because he's going to be mined out of his main, actually. And I think both players, yeah, they're definitely getting to a pretty low mineral count. It looks like Professor Oak was mining a bit harder at his mineral patches because, as you can see, his maximum like probes allowed on that Nexus is 15 right now, while LetMeWin's is 21. So he's got a few more patches. He's got like one more that's still available, but they're going to be mining out of their main pretty quickly. So this is just like a one base PvP, just just a little slugfest, I guess, of just all of the fun units, right? Oh, we've had no Dark Templars, but maybe next game. We've got a couple of Phoenixes coming in from LetMeWin. Are they going to do anything fun? What are they going to see? They haven't scouted the expansion of Professor Oak yet. I know... did he see the expansion go down and then get cancelled? I think so. I didn't quite catch that. Ooh. A couple of Stargates coming up to try and counter LetMeWin's Tempest army. And I think if Professor Oak... I mean, I'm not sure how it goes, to be honest, but I would feel like Void Rays. honestly would be probably the best choice, because Phoenixes, they don't do a whole lot against Void Rays. They're not great against them. They're faster than them, they can kite them, but they don't really do damage to Void Rays. So if Professor Oak can just get the Void Ray count going, and I think, is there anything even close to a Templar Archives? Yes, there is. Okay, so that's going to be tough for Professor Oak, because the Templar Archives, he makes a couple of Archons. I don't think he hasn't researched Storm, and he might not be researching Storm. He might just be going for a bit of a, well, he's still making Tempest. He made so many Sargates, but he's not really using them to their full potential. They're not always making units, and I think that's just because we're at a very low base count for both of these players for how long this game has gone. How about the upgrades? I know Professor Oak was going for an upgrade heavy style, however, well, not quite super heavy, but compared to LetMeWin, Professor Oak does have that upgrade lead, but right now we're kind of looking at a unit composition challenge, I guess, if you will, from Professor Oak. He sees, I'm sure he's seen the, ooh, it looks like the Observer got picked off from Professor Oak, so he might not have seen these High Templar yet. Although I think he's seen, okay, he probably saw the High Templar Archive building. Ooh, he's going to lose that Mothership Core. That is not good. That was a full energy Mothership Core, got dropped down, and that means LetMeWin says, I can move out, I can attack you, you don't have Time Warp, you're not going to have any Photon Overcharge, I can just roll over your army right now, because these Archons doing a lot of damage, these Stalkers, they're out of position, Professor Oak has to leave the game, he can't quite deal with that army. It was a good fight, to be honest. It was pretty close to start. I don't know if I've done this right. I need to maybe change something, but that's okay. So Professor Oak falling in game 1. And so we will be moving on to what map we'll be moving on to. We will be going to Nimbus for game 2. And I will host that up. Just on the week one, save your place. Okay, so some players were asking about how to update the bracket. Okay, so apparently I was trying to do self-reported matches, and maybe you have to log in? Not sure. Okay, so we need to get this next game going though. We're having maybe some issues with self-reporting. It might not happen. I don't know. Oh, Catalina is next. Oh dear. Okay. So he banned Nimbus? I'm so confused. So do we have a map 3? So we're gonna go to Catalina for our next game. Okay, we need to create Catalina. So Catalina, create with the GameHard extension mod. It looks like the maps were slightly messed up. Game 3 will be King Sejong Station if we... Does this fit? Yeah, buddy. Okay. So the player is trying to self-report, but unfortunately it might not be working too well. And since there isn't an additional tournament admin, and sometimes LetMeWin, who is Sam, is usually my kind of standby admin as well. He helps out with it. He helps reporting the matches as well. So we'll get smooth. Okay, so I tried to, I don't know, Binary Beast, it's a little weird. It doesn't, I don't know, self-reporting is funky. But we will get there. Right now, we kind of have to focus on getting this game going. We're going to get ProfessorOak and LetMeWin to get their final match on. Currently, it's 1-0 in favor of LetMeWin. He took game 1 on merry-go-round in a very odd match. We're talking about Hypernia and his broken O key. Okay, I can't pay attention to chat. It's too funny. So ProfessorOak, he's readied up. LetMeWin, he's readied up. We're ready to go into Catalina, our game 2 of the match. LetMeWin has switched to an orange Protoss. I think that's very important. Maybe. We'll see. Probably not, to be honest. It's just... You might as well call something out, right? Alright, so we're moving into game 2 of this best of 3 between ProfessorOak and LetMeWin. That is the wrong overlay. There we go, guys. Alright, we are into the game. I didn't do this last time, but it's a best of 3. Got LetMeWin. He's up by 1 win and spawning in the bottom of the map. It is our Protoss player from Michigan. He is LetMeWin. Up on the top side of the map, he is a random player. However, he spawned Protoss again, so we got another PvP. It is ProfessorOak. He is from Illinois? I should know these things. Indeed. He is from Ohio, actually. Excuse me. So he's our gold random player, although he spawned in as a Protoss this time, unbeknownst to our Protoss race picker. LetMeWin is ProfessorOak, the random player from Ohio. So this time, it looks like he's gone, just an early scout, maybe. He does need to scout on this map because it is a 3-player spawn. Somebody could have spawned here, but this time, ProfessorOak's not going to get too lucky with his scout. LetMeWin starts out with a gateway down on 13, as does ProfessorOak. They're both doing the same build. And LetMeWin, I think this time, he's a little bit cheeky. Last time with the proxy carrier rush, it's a bit of a bold move, and it almost didn't work out, to be honest. ProfessorOak's Oracle that got 9 kills right off the bat into a 4-gate pressure just barely nearly killed LetMeWin. LetMeWin's carrier just managed to make it home in time to hold off the 4-gate with his 3-gateway defense. So just by the skin of his teeth, and dude, I've done that before. I've done that so many times. Like, you don't even know. Like, you're boxing your workers, you're really excited. You got this adrenaline going, and you're like, hell yeah, let's do this. We're gonna have so much APM this game, right? But then suddenly you box your workers, and you hit a button, you click on a mineral patch, and you're like, fuck. And suddenly you've commanded all your workers, and your opponent, he might have just seen it, and that's it's a mental thing, it might break you down a little bit. And as we can see, ProfessorOak, he's got 500 minerals, and he's getting that Nexus down. It's a pretty bold play. LetMeWin is uncomfortable. He doesn't know what's going on. He's uncomfortable because he sees no gases. He's helping to commentate the game right now by letting us know his thoughts. He's just really not sure. He hasn't seen a lot from his opponent. You know, you see this and you say, why don't you have gases? Why? I mean, he didn't manage to see his expansion. And really, I think it's a little bit unconventional because I feel like typically you want a cybernetics core. You really need that stalker out there to provide an ample defense. And now it looks like Professor Oak, maybe this is like a Zerg style kind of, you know, this is the late gas. You know, I'm gonna get my minerals going. I'm gonna get my mineral income, just high and mighty. Although right now it's not quite picked up. When this next base finishes up, though, his income potential will be a lot greater than LetMeWin for quite a bit of time. Assuming that Professor Oak is able to not get supply blocked, be able to keep on making probes, he's going to be at a higher income rate. He's got his forge coming down. He's probably going to do, I think part of that was a safety forge. You know, you want to make sure you don't just die. Especially because he didn't get that cybernetics core right away. You got to defend with something, and a cannon is a good choice for that. It's a bit of a substitute for a stalker. It means you lose out on some map control, as we can see. LetMeWin, well, he doesn't have a stalker out. That's kind of surprising. He's also going for the defensive play. Okay, he just got one stalker out, but he's feeling a little bit more comfortable with just roaming around the map. And actually, he has seen his opponent. Okay, he's just really curious about proxies, I think. I think he's really concerned with proxy bases, when really he never scouted the main base, or the natural base of Professor Oak, so he's a little bit more worried than he should be, maybe. LetMeWin, on the other hand, what are we up to? We've got a third gateway coming down. We have an observer coming out. I would expect, I guess, just a gateway army with some immortals. Pretty standard, whereas out of Professor Oak, he's still working on his warp gate tech. It's quite a bit later, but as I was mentioning before, he has more probes right now. So he's just getting more money faster, and he's going to be able to, if he plays his cards right, he's going to be able to have a decently larger army than his opponent. However, okay, he's grabbing a Stargate. I actually kind of like this. We've got, is it equal gateway counts? It is not equal gateway counts. However, we have a couple more gateways coming down from Professor Oak, so he's going to be at a total of 5, whereas LetMeWin will be at a total of just 3 gateways. And so actually, Professor Oak's gateway army has a decent bit more potential, and then having that Stargate up in the air, I really want him to make something out of it. There we go, there's that Void Ray. I think that's honestly a decent counter to the Robo. Because if LetMeWin, make something out of your Robo, or you don't. I guess, but he's not even going for Blink Stalkers. I'm a little bit confused here, to be honest. I guess maybe this is a thing? The 3-gate pressure with +1? Is that, I don't know. I don't know Protoss. I don't know PvP. I wanted LetMeWin to be my PvP expert. Or pseudo expert, I guess. Because I would think that, okay, he's got the Immortals coming out. However, he has not seen that Stargate. And Voiders against Immortals, I mean, just based on the fact that Immortals really don't kill, Immortals don't really kill Void Rays very fast. Pretty good choice. Because let's check it out right now. I mean, the Stalker count is actually higher for Professor Oak. This Immortal, it's going to kill Stalkers just fine, but it won't be able to take out this Void Ray, and this Void Ray actually will do, based on, I mean, the fact that it does extra damage to armored units, which is Stalkers and Immortals, will be very beneficial to Professor Oak. And is this really going to happen? Is this, like, I mean, I'm not doubting Professor Oak, to be honest, but just based on the fact that they're 2 leagues apart, usually it should be pretty easy for LetMeWin. I think he was pretty uncertain about the opener of his opponent, so he maybe he's just kind of thrown off, you know? Sometimes when you have no idea as to what your opponent's doing, your build really starts to suffer, and you just say, I don't know what to do right now, I don't know what to make, and then you just kind of realize, like, oh, I haven't been making things. Why have I not been making things? Oh, panic. However, the aggression isn't going to happen yet. And now we're getting Blink onto our stalkers. We've got a Colossus Den, as I like to call them, the robotics bay down. Upgrading extended thermal lance for this Colossus that's coming out of LetMeWin's robo facility. However, the fight is going to happen. We've got a couple of hallucinated Colossus, seeing if that will scare off Professor Oak, our Pokemon hero. Can he make it? The army supply is in Professor Oak's favor. He's targeting down these immortals with the Void Rays. A very smart choice. He has a... Oh my gosh, he has a Stalker lead. He has an Air Units lead. The one Colossus is out, but those Void Rays can just target down that Colossus very quickly. He's targeting down this Nexus. He didn't get a cancel off on it. I think he really wanted to get a cancel on that. I think the one thing that Professor Oak that was missing that would have won him that engagement was a reinforcing pylon. LetMeWin has a pylon here, he has a pylon here, he can warp in units very close by. Unfortunately, Professor Oak didn't have that reinforcing pylon, even though he has a larger army supply right now. You could even say he maybe has a little bit of a better army right now. With some good micro, I think he could do it. But he didn't have his army all together. So if half of your army is back home, you know, there's no way you can beat your opponent that has his entire army fighting just half of yours. So unfortunately, what looked like to be a very good fight for Professor Oak just didn't quite work out. They kind of traded even right there, which really is what LetMeWin wanted. LetMeWin didn't want to. He knew he wasn't going to be able to take out that army completely. What he wanted to do was hold off on this base. He didn't want to cancel that base. He wanted it to come down because he knows that the last time he saw, Professor Oak doesn't have a base, or a third base, excuse me. Professor Oak is trying to play the catch-up game a little bit. As we can see, the worker count for both players, that's workers killed. We don't really want that, do we? We'll look at the income tab. We've got 54 harvesters to 46 in a mirror matchup like Protoss versus Protoss. Even a very small, well, that's starting to turn into a big worker lead, to be honest. A 10 worker lead for one opponent is just ridiculous when you can both make the same units. There is countering, you know, there is the ability to counter your opponent, but it's a lot harder to do so. Oftentimes it just comes down to who takes the better fights and who gets their bases up more safely and gets their economy going faster will pretty much always be in a great position. Something else to note that I haven't really touched on yet is just the fact that LetMeWin, he's all over this map. He's got pylons wherever he wants them to be. So any fight that he takes, he will be able to reinforce just about anywhere on this map where he expects to take a fight. You know, he's thinking we're probably going to be fighting somewhere along this pathway, or if my opponent pushes out, I warp in a few zealots and I take a fight to his base with a run by. However, we've got a fight coming down into the middle of the map. We've got an army supply lead for LetMeWin. He's got these 3 Colossus. They're doing very well against these Stalkers. The Void Rays are not quite effective enough at taking down these army units. However, I don't know if there's enough Stalkers to fully... Okay, there's that Archon though. That Archon will help out the Stalkers in taking out the Void Rays. It looks like Professor Oak is going to have to tap out of the game and give the win to LetMeWin. Living up to his name, letting him take that win, if you will. And he can add to his repertoire of accomplishments that, in fact, he has never lost to a Pokemon character. Well, maybe he has, but not today. He has defeated Pokemon, and now, actually, I will bring him back into the call. We will get the winner's interview, excuse me. I wanted to call him the loser just because. I'll call him up. What's up, what's up?
Howdy, hey. Dude, that guy's good.
Those were close, man.
He's a good gold.
Yeah. I think he's actually been platinum, maybe. There's a couple of players where, like, they were, you know, currently...
It didn't look like it on his profile. Looks like he had just been gold. He was platinum.